Hello, Eric Rainwater here. Well, this will come out in the afternoon, I think next week, from when I'm recording it, and I'm recording it in the morning right after the sun's rising. Nice and cool in the morning. The fall weather is finally here in mid-October where I'm at. And it is glorious. I love the cooler weather. This morning my friend had got some and I was trying it, and I think it's pretty good. I got a big old can of Granger pipe tobacco. So Granger, I think it's just a burley. There's a slight subtle topping on it, so it's a little sweet but not overly aromatic. It's what's called a codger blend. Well, that's my goal, is to be a cool old codger. Oh man, it's pretty good though. So it's a lot cheaper than some of the other tobaccos as well. Costs about as much for 7 ounces as 1.5 ounces of something else sometimes. It's got a nice taste. Well, let's get into it. Well, what I want to talk about is more just my views on what I think's going on in the world. You know, for the dozen people or so that watch my videos. So, not that I think it's gonna make a dent in the natural, but I think we can shift things in the place of prayer. I've said that time and again. It is amazing to me, and it's not shocking from what I understand and what I've studied, but it is still amazing that in the West, in our culture, that we have allowed Islam to take such a foothold. That we have, believed the liberal narrative that because of the sins of the West, the sins of colonialism, that we should let these poor Muslims in. And even though they are telling us why they're coming in, why they're coming here, they're not coming here as refugees. They'll tell the right official they are, but in their own countries and with their own leaders, they're like, we need to invade the West. And we're gonna do it by acting like we're refugees, and we're gonna pull on the strings of their compassion. So that's the thing. Islam is using the very Christian, whether it's actually Christians, who actually believe in Jesus doing it, but it is our Christian compassion for the widow and the orphan and the sojourner right? The refugee. And because of that, right? But without discernment. That's the issue. It's without discernment. We should just be kind to everyone and not discern who they are. Not discern, are they a wolf in sheep's clothing? And we just say, come on in, right? Or just like a kind little southern old lady, come on in here. Come on in here and get you a bite to eat. But when you do that as a nation, as a government, and you're not discerning, you're letting your enemies into your own country. You're letting those who have expressly said they want to destroy you into your own country. Sorry if it's loud. You know, the thing about sound is sometimes the air condition, the air, the atmosphere, and the wind, sound carries different. So the far off trains and the highway sound a lot closer right now. So we'll see how this sounds. I will say this new phone I'm recording on does a lot better with the mic of cutting out other noises. So we'll see how it ends up. But Islam, all we gotta do is look at what is going on in England to see what is around the corner here, or what certain people would like to see, right? There are people who would be glad to see Islam used to put down the Christians, to silence the Christians, to put people in jail for being Christian, or just being patriots. Right? There's free speech has ended in England. They are getting arrested for flying their own flag. Let that sink in. Flying their own flag and critiquing anybody. They're getting arrested for highlighting that people are pedophiles and rapists. And that's what Islam is. Islam is a religion that promotes pedophilia, that promotes rape, that promotes all kinds of violence and perversion. And some will say, oh, it's a religion of peace. Well, their idea of peace is them in charge and you not. The Islamic idea of peace, when they say it's a religion of peace, they mean when Islam is in charge of everything and everything's under Sharia law, that's their idea of peace. Their idea of peace is not our idea of peace. Our idea of peace is, has become go along to get along. And I think there's a time and a place for that. But if you don't recognize and discern what these suckers are saying, they're coming. And they do not have righteous intentions. But if you know anything about Islam, which most people don't, they don't study it, they have no idea. So the thing about Islam is, on the surface, it's ascetic. And so, yeah, it has this veneer of a holiness and a righteousness. Where the Ramadan, they fast and they pray every day. They pray 5 times a day, and you give up alcohol, and you only eat certain foods, kind of like in Jewish law. But this is what tells you what they're really about. Look at their idea of heaven. What is the Muslim idea of heaven? And so you give up all this stuff, but what are you after? You're after all the things you deny in this life. So you deny yourself alcohol and all kinds of stuff. And they have their idea of sexual purity and marriage and stuff, which when you get into it is perverse. But you deny yourself things and you act in this righteous way, this holy way, but then all the stuff you're supposed to deny is what you get in heaven, right? You're supposed to only have 4 wives now, which is, according to them, strict. You get all these wives, but you don't just get, so you've heard the thing like, what is it, 70 virgins or whatever? So, yeah, like if you're a Muslim martyr, you're going to get, all the pleasures. You're going to get all the alcohol, all the indulgent food, and you're going to get all the sex you want. And you're going to have a harem. You're going to be a sheik, basically. That's the promise. You will be this great ruler with this great harem. But in that harem, you get into the details, and it's prepubescent boys and little girls and women. It's like in the promise is gay pedophilia. And then we're shocked that they do such things. Right? So Islam appeals to the worst parts of a man. It appeals to the lust, it appeals to the anger and the rage and the violence that lives in the heart of man. And that's what's so funny too about Islam, is it's everything that the liberals say they hate, but they love Islam. Why? Because it's not Christian. And because it's actually the arch enemy of Christianity. It really is. Because it's close, because it's a Christian heresy. Right? So you go back into the history, and Muhammad took heretical Christianity and versions of Judaism, and he commingled them with Arab folk traditions. And he came up with this, Joseph Smith on steroids style religion that made him the prophet, right? He's their new Moses. But he co-ops that promise of Abraham. He co-ops Christ. Christ is not my Christ. His version of Christ, of Jesus, is not the Son of God, but just a prophet. Just another prophet. And Muhammad is the last prophet. And so and it's at its core is lies, and so they're liars. At its core is cheaters, so they cheat. At its core, there's perversion, and Muhammad was a pedophile, and so they're a bunch of pedophiles. Now, does that mean that every individual Muslim is a pedophile? No, not at all. There are certainly Muslim and Arab people that I have met that are kind people, that are just people, that grew up wherever they grew up, and they're trying to be good people. You can meet good people of any persuasion, of any religion, of any thought. Like, they may be off, but it may be what they grew up in or whatever, but in their hearts, they're trying to do the right thing. They want to do good. And maybe they hate Christianity because they were hurt by the church. I understand that. It certainly happens. Church is full of people. You're going to get hurt. But as a system, on a large scale, Christianity has rid the world of slavery, has rid the world of racism. It's trying, right? Racism didn't come out of Christianity. It came in despite of it. And racism, as we call it, black and white, is just another form of tribalism, right? Those same arguments, when we were talking about the race, we were talking about nationalities and tribes. That's where those words come from, right? The English race versus the Irish race, the Scottish race. Well, none of those were black and white people. Those are white people, right? They're either different religions or different tribes. All that. But Islam is very tribal. It is very, truly barbaric. And you can look at Islam and it had this golden age, right? It really did. A lot of our math, there's, even the rediscovery of Aristotle in the Middle Ages came from the Arabs. Did you know that? But that's not because of Islam. Do you know why there was a golden age in the Arab world? Because Islam conquered Persia. And Persia is an ancient, sophisticated, empire. It's an ancient, sophisticated culture. And we're talking about ancient Iran here. Ancient Iran is Persian. Right, they speak Farsi. They're Persian people. So the ancient Persians, they were the rival of Rome. Right, they're even older than Rome. So going all the way back to Cyrus the Great from the Bible, and the Babylonians before that, and the Assyrians, going way back into it, ancient antiquity. And so Islam takes over Persia. And when they take over Persia, and there's Christian and Jewish kingdoms that they took over. So in North Africa, you had all these Christian Greek kingdoms, and then you had some Jewish kingdoms and Christian kingdoms in Arabia, and you had some Arabian stuff, but they weren't Islam yet. So it takes over all this established empire. It's Roman and Persian and Hellenistic and Egyptian. It takes over all this stuff, and it's a unifying culture, and so it's empowered and colored by all that. But at its heart, it's just Bedouin, barbaric tribesmen. And so folk Islam eventually eats itself up, right? Now, it also, the Christians helped to dismantle it because Islam was trying to get up into Europe already by force, right? And so when you hear about the Crusades, the narrative that the Crusades was the Christians going and beating up on the poor innocent Muslims. That is a crock of bull. No, the Muslims, so Muhammad conquered most of the Middle East and North Africa. And then after him, some of those first started with these North African Moors that were Muslim, and they pushed up and they conquered Spain, and they were pushing up into France. Right? This is the 8th century. This is the 700s. And Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer, the grandfather of Charlemagne, stops them in their tracks in France and pushes them back. And Charlemagne fought them too. So they push them back into Spain. And then they were in Spain for 700 years. They were in Spain until 1492, interestingly enough, right? The year that Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That was the same year that the Spanish finally kicked out the Muslims out of Europe. And then 1453, right? Islam finally conquers Constantinople and then pushes all the way to the gates of Vienna. And without the help of Polish knights that had angel-winged looking things on the back of them, pushed them back. But the Crusades was first sent out in 1095. 1095, almost 1100. But they first went into Spain in the 700s. So don't tell me that the Christians were just attacking the poor Muslims. No, the Muslims did start it first. The express goal of Islam is to take over the world. Right? They have their form of eschatology, which is to take over the world and bring about Sharia law everywhere. And that's when they say peace, right? Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum. Malaikum salam. All that about the peace of God. They mean to want to conquer the world. But look at what they're doing in England. They're raping girls and boys. And they're stealing. And they're thieves. And then they're like they've been given mosques, right? They've been empowered to build mosques, and they're given mosques. And they don't want to pray in them. They want to pray in the streets. I saw a thing today. This Muslim dude walked out in the middle of a freaking highway and started praying. Why? Why is he doing that? Is it because he's an idiot? No, actually not. He's doing that very much on purpose. It's a flex, right? It's an immature kindergarten recess flex of I'm stronger than you. I see you as weak and you're not going to do anything about it. They're going right into church buildings and praying. They're going, out in the streets and they're praying. Why? To flex, to show that they are in charge. Wake up and smell the coffee, man. They're debating the call of prayer right now in Dearborn, Michigan. And if you've ever lived in a country where there's a Muslim call to prayer going out at 4 in the something frickin' morning, you know that it's demonic. And it's trying to force you into their way of thinking. They are not okay with just being tolerated. They want to take over. Wake up and smell the coffee. And I'm praying for Jordan Peterson. He's not been well, but I think I watched him for a little while. He thought that, Islam could be on the side of good because it seems conservative in one sense. Some of them. But it ain't. It's a whole nother destructive thing. And I think he finally was figuring out this isn't the thing to do. But then you got Tucker, who's like, oh, actually, Sharia law sounds like a pretty good thing. No, it doesn't. You're getting paid by Qatar. Shut your mouth. Wake up. It is not a peaceful religion. It is wicked. It is barbaric. It is perverse. And it hates humanity. Now, the power of, there's some kind of demonic power of deception on it, because why would a woman ever join it? It's something that boggles the mind. But they do. Right? Because it presents itself as competent, and that's what a lot of women want is a competent man. They're not really worried about if he's abusive, as long as his a little bit of abuse will protect her from the other things. But then they go out and they rape other girls, right? In Afghanistan they have a whole culture of making young boys dress up like girls and dance for the men and have sex with them. What the heck is that? It's crazy. And it's not like these are bad Muslims who are doing these things. It's not. So like when a Christian does the wrong thing, it's the wrong thing, and eventually gets rebuked for it. It's the wrong thing. You shouldn't have done that. That's actually not Christianity. But when Muslims do these things, they're praised for it because they're like, well, that's what heaven's all about. And then they do that thing that they're heading towards. Why are we shocked? It's crazy. Now, the same token, Iran is the fastest growing church in the world. The underground church in Iran is the fastest, and the people I know in Iran, the ministries that are working with the underground church in Iran, they're they can't tell you the details, but they're trying to get into they're already getting in Afghanistan. They're trying to get into Gaza, and they're trying to get into Syria and these places and bring the gospel to the hardest places in the world. And here's the crazy thing, and I have seen this, because there is no true peace without the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. And it will eventually, Jesus will have to come. He knows what that point is, where we would destroy ourselves otherwise. But I have seen peace between Jew and Muslim, between Palestinian and Israeli, and they are worshiping Jesus together. That's when there's peace. And so the gospel will win. And years ago, the Holy Spirit told me, you watch, there will be a great outpouring and revival of young Muslims in Europe specifically coming to the Lord. And so despite their efforts, and even if they seem to win on the political front, they will lose. They will lose. And people will come to the faith, because it is the faith. They will see the truth. They will wake up, just like people in Saudi Arabia and Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. All kinds of people are saying, man, I'm being oppressed by these dudes. I don't want this anymore. And miraculous things are happening. They're turning to Jesus. And so that's the other side of it. If it seems that Islam is winning, it's because they will lose. They will lose in the end. Even if they try, even if it seems like they conquer the world, they will lose. People will come into the kingdom. The gospel will win in the end. If not politically for a time, it will win in the end. Absolutely. And everything's playing out as the Bible says it will. But in the meantime, don't deceive yourself and think, oh, these Muslims are peaceful. They're not peaceful. They mean business, and they mean what they say when they're talking to each other. When they're lying to you and saying, oh, no, my friend, we don't do that. Yes, you do. I have been lied to, and when I was in Israel, I had Muslims trying to con me all the time. I met really sweet ones too, who were genuine, but there was a whole lot of them that were like, "Oh, I'm a Christian," and they weren't Christian. They were lying. They were lying through their teeth, and they will lie if it benefits them. It is. They have permission to do that, so take it for what it is. Rant over, but it's like I'm watching what's going on in the world, and I'm like, I wish I was shocked, but man, I'm also saddened to see cultures being destroyed, right? I am a total Anglophile, love England and the UK and Scotland and Ireland and all those, that's my ancestry, and I'm watching it be destroyed by liberals empowering Muslims. Behind it, though, it's Islam. And I hate to see it. It hurts my heart. And I'm seeing it threaten America, which I truly, dearly love. And I wish we'd wake up. But we'll see what happens. Christ will win in the end. The gospel will win. I'm not afraid of it. So, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May He shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace, His shalom.